Hello, my name is Zach Gibbs, and I'm a content developer within education services inside Juniper Networks. And today we will be discussing the Sky ATP Web Protection Security Director Learning Byte. So here's our example. In this example, we have VSRX1, which is connected to user 1, and then VSRX1 is connected to the internet. Now this allows the user to access the internet and potentially download something bad from the malware server. All right, so what do we want to do? Well, the criteria for the example is on the slide. VSRX1 is already enrolled with Sky ATP, and although it's not shown on the slide, Security Director and Policy Enforcer are already enrolled with Sky ATP. That is, the Policy Enforcer device is enrolled with Sky ATP. So what do we want to do? We want to block malicious files downloaded through HTTP, and then we want to block users from communicating through VSRX1 if they end up downloading something malicious. So if they download something bad, we're going to stop them from communicating through VSRX1, and then we're going to block that bad thing that they try to download as well. So with that, let's go ahead and jump to Security Director and get this started. So here is Security Director. We are currently in the Configure workspace, and we need to go to the Threat Prevention, then Policies workspace. And we need to create a new threat prevention policy. Let's click the Create button, and then we'll name this. That stands for Learning Byte Threat Prevention Policy, if you're wondering. Then let's click on the Include Infected Host Profile in Policy. We want to set the actions to drop connection silently. This is what will drop traffic after a host downloads something malicious. The include malware profile in policy is about blocking the actual file that might be malicious as the host is downloading it. Let's select the HTTP file download option. Then we need to select a device profile. We'll just select the default profile. That'll work fine. Action, drop connection silently. That works great. And let's put this at a 7. So if the host downloads something that is 7 or greater, we're going to block that. And then let's click OK. We can leave the log settings as default of log all traffic. And now we need to link that to threat prevention policy with a firewall policy. And we could select a standard policy or a unified policy. Standard policy works fine, so we'll go with that. Either would work for our case study though. Let's create a new policy. We'll call this policy LB-FW. Move VSRX1 into that, and then we'll add a rule. We'll call this rule LB-FW-TPP. We want to set this from zone client. So that's where the user 1 is, going to the internet. Okay, so under advanced security, notice how these options are grayed out. We need to set this to permit for the action to be able to select additional options, especially the threat prevention policy option. So we need to select our threat prevention policy we created earlier. Click Next. We don't need to worry about rule analysis or rule placement. Go ahead and create this. We'll save it. Then let's click the Update button. Then let's publish and update this policy. Okay, things worked out well there. Get rid of this window, and then jump to the user device and attempt to download something malicious. All right, so here is the user device. Let's go ahead and update these files. Note that the user is accessing the malware server. It's a fake malware server. This isn't real malware, so don't worry. Let's regenerate these files though. And then let's attempt to download malware. It didn't work. I think we should try again, just in case. Again, we have a problem. Okay, one more time, just to be safe. And to be completely honest, what I'm doing here is I'm downloading the malware multiple times to make sure the host is included in the infected list. Okay, so that's probably good. We did it 3 times. Now we just need to wait for the host to be put in the infected feed list, and then for Sky ATP to communicate to VSRX1 that it needs to be put in the infected host list. So that usually takes a minute or two. So what I'll do is I'll set up a ping to the server. And when that ping stops functioning, we'll know that the host is on the infected host list. So that's going to take a bit. And so what I'll do is I'll pause the video and restart things up after the host has been put on the infected host list. All right, so the traffic has stopped. We can see that it took about, a little over a minute, so things are good there. So one other thing I do want to show is that we can't even ping anything else on the internet either. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump back to Security Director and have a look at things. So here in the Sky ATP host workspace, we can see that we do have the one host that is a part of the infected host feed. You can see in the infected host feed field that it is included. We can see the threat level, which is 7, which is barely within our range. We're blocking 7 through 10, but it's still within the range. We can see some malware hits. We can see the state of the investigation is open. And so this would be a scenario that this just happened. We realize that this host had just been taken off this network and we don't know much about it. So that's why the state of the investigation status is set to open. We can see when the threat was first seen, when it was last seen, things like that. So let's go ahead and click on the host identifier, which in this case happens to be the same as the host IP. And we can see additional information here. Under the threat settings, we can see the investigation status is set to open. We kind of talked about that. Now we have the policy override for this host. The options are user configured policy, which is basically what we configured on the SRX device, or we could always include the host in the infected host feed or never include in the infected host feed. Now that can be important for certain scenarios. Say you have something that you never want communicating on your network. You could always include the host in the infected host feed. Say you have a server that's got an application, say it's just sitting there triggering Sky ATP, but it's not really malicious traffic. We could say never include the host in the infected host feed. Now, use both those options with caution because the whole point of Sky ATP is to dynamically detect malware and kind of defeats the purpose using either of those two bottom options. So definitely use those with caution. Okay, so in the time range, we can see the host threat level graph. We can see when and how bad the infections were. This host has had multiple infections over the last few days. It's been me doing some testing and whatnot. But you can see that. You can see what a host has done and go from there. And then at the very bottom, we have the current threats. We can see that we have this host, which was today, downloaded a malicious file. So we can click on the malicious file link to find out more information about it. And this takes us to the HTTP file download workspace, which is under threat prevention, which is under monitor. And we're able to see additional information. We have the threat level, the top indicators, prevalence, and other general information. We're under the general tab here where we can see the threat level, the global prevalence, when it was scanned, file name, size, category, the type, the strain, other details like the SHA-256 and MD5 hash. And then we can also see the HTTP downloads of which host and when downloaded this file, as well as where they downloaded it from, the URL involved, as well as the device, which is the enforcement device, which in this case is VSRX1. And then we can click on behavior analysis and find out more information about why Sky ATP thinks this is bad. We have, for example, evasion, 8%. That's a really high value as far as why this is bad. We have other stuff like persistence, which is set to low. We have some medium type behavior, targeting, things like that. And so then we can scroll down in the box down here in the behavior scene to find out more information about this and go from there. And then we can look at the network activity. You can see what this piece of malware tried to do. It tried to contact a bunch of different domains, as well as contacted IPs and DNS activity, things like that. And then we can also look at the behavior details to find out more detailed information about what this malware is doing. So there's tons of information in here that you can use to help protect your network. Okay, so one last thing I want to do is jump to the CLI to get some more statistics that we really can't get here inside of Security Director. All right, so here is the CLI of VSRX1. I want to show the advanced anti-malware statistics to you. And we can see here in the first section, we have the advanced anti-malware session statistics. And we can see that we have some HTTP sessions that are permitted as well as some blocked. And then we can go to the advanced anti-malware file statistics. And we can see here that we have some file submissions that were successful under HTTP, some file submissions that were not needed, and then file verdict meets threshold. That means that is what we consider malicious traffic. Then I do want to show the security intelligence statistics. And we can see here, we go to the bottom of this output, we can see category infected host. We can see that there's quite a few process sessions, and then block drop sessions is also really high as well. So we can see the security intelligence part of this is dropping the additional traffic that the client is attempting to send through the device. So that does bring us to the end of this learning byte. In this Learning Byte, we demonstrated how to configure Sky ATP Web Protection Advanced Anti-Malware functionality using Security Director, and we demonstrated how to verify Sky ATP Web Protection Advanced Anti-Malware functionality using Security Director and a little bit of the CLI as well. So as always, thanks for watching.
Visit the Juniper Education Services website to learn more about courses. View our full range of classroom, online, and e-learning courses. Learning paths, industry segment and technology-specific training paths. Juniper Networks Certification Program, the ultimate demonstration of your competence. And the training community, from forums to social media. Join the discussion.